It's quite interesting that in regards to this project, I get to use the phrase rolling back the hands of time in two senses, not only in how I'm approaching this right now, way past this film's release date, and I do apologize. For those of you who follow my work on a regular basis, probably know that winding back the hands of time, or I guess more often I use the term, I'm in a catch-up phase. I say it often enough, and I'm finally making some progress in that arena. It's totally taken me years, but there's a lot of projects I'm needing to get to for quite a while, so if you apologize again for my lateness, I'm finally giving this project the regard it probably deserves, I would imagine. But in the sense of the project and in focus, I'm using that phrase in two senses because we're looking at a historical project. And these types of pictures, I think appeal to me and generally a lot of other people as well. However, and the style might be different. You might prefer perhaps a documentary, or like me, you're very open to adaptations within the modern era with, familiar faces from quite equipped talent, in my opinion, retelling stories that have long been hallmarks in our historical accounts, especially maybe in America's darker periods, or you could look maybe in regards to worldwide focused historical accounts and, have a similar take. But the project of focus, Harriet, sounds like a very competent picture. It's quite approachable for me as somebody who studied the Civil War a lot back in especially grade school days. There was certainly a season in my education for that. And it was a period of history that fascinates me, and one that I certainly see stems in some regards. You could certainly find maybe other strands you could pull, but we still look at it as a very dark and yet in some respects inspirational period. And like with the story of, not only the history, but the story of Harriet Tubman, a very legendary figure in terms of civil rights and her accomplishments with freeing slaves, being a former slave herself and rescuing other slaves amid the Civil War. She really is a pioneer in many ways in history. I'm very interested to see a film that again spotlights her in detail, though I've never really studied Harriet Tubman other than knowing about her from a broad sense of her and the Underground Railroad and stuff like that. I've never studied her in depth, and I've heard from this movie, and sometimes you have historical projects that come across and maybe they take some liberties, and when you adapt a story into film, of course, maybe let's say in the context of maybe you're adapting from a text, there might be some omissions that better fit, the narrative style that's more constituted in a cinematic form. But I've heard, at least from people who have watched this in the time it took me to get on the ball with it, that it's good. That perhaps it is. I don't remember if they used the word faithful, but it sounds like it really is an honorary piece. And I would believe it again based on not only the casting. It's a lot of big names here: Leslie Odom Jr., Janelle Monáe, and Cynthia Erivo as Harriet herself. And I think she's a great choice. My limited exposure with her maybe does not give me the best basis to compare to others, but from what I've seen of her work, and she has a fabulous singing voice, by the way. She was the best thing off of Bad Times at the El Royale, a film I thought was great from the marketing, but I watched and I need to see it again because it confounded me the first time, and it wasn't really an impressive picture. But her talents, I thought, spoke a lot of credit to her identity as an actress. I think she's more than equipped to portray a wonderful character. And I hope that Harriet, speaking of Janelle Monáe, I did watch Antebellum, very different movie, but that was like probably a couple months ago when I saw that film for the first time. I didn't really care for it. I think this is going to be more of an enriched story, but I thought Janelle Monáe did a good job. It was just the film in itself I didn't think was that appealing. This movie has the affiliation of Focus Features, who I've covered a lot of their work, and I can certainly think of pictures that I've seen in full. Let's say, for example, maybe there's pictures I'm forgetting as well from other aspects. But I remember like Boy Erased, for example. Very competent film. I was quite impressed by the caliber of that piece. And again, like I've said, I've covered a lot of their trailers that have fit that type of image for them. So I would imagine Harriet is being handled with very responsible hands. Let's go ahead and take a look at the main trailer, the only trailer that it had. And maybe for some of you, you're also someone who you can think back perhaps to your grade school days, or maybe in your adult situation, and think back perhaps on a moment where you were studying the Civil War and is a period of interest for you, or maybe just history more broadly, and that's what brings you in. But maybe you don't know as much about Harriet Tubman's story in detail, other than, like me, broad strokes. I'm sure this piece will be a faithful education. But again, I love watching historical fare, and from Focus Features and with the talent that's boasted here, I think this is going to be a very memorable piece. And again, like I said, Harriet Tubman has quite a legacy. I can think, okay, you can forgive the example on this, but I guess I have had some exposure at least into, again, her accomplishments. I think back in terms of Harriet Tubman and my familiarity of her to Dance Moms. I know, odd example, but I thought that there's what was it, in season 7, one of the teachers did a number with, I think Nakia was the dancer of Focus, Black Patsy's daughter, for those of you who remember the show, if you're watched. I know, again, odd example to bring in conjunction to this film. I'm sure it's going to be more faithful. But they performed a number, or they choreographed one as well that was presented in honor of Harriet Tubman. And I thought, if you've never seen it, it was actually, I think, one of the better dance numbers. It really struck a chord, I thought. It embodied a lot of the passion and the reverence that we have for her as such a trailblazing figure in American history, and one that was pivotal, I think, especially in the story of slavery and how we've recovered from that. Harriet Tubman has quite a legacy that is certainly, stuck with us, throughout her life and even beyond. Let's see if this movie has that same level of faithfulness and respect, but I would imagine it would. Okay, main trailer, the only trailer. Again, I figured maybe they would brand this one a little more potently, but it's Cynthia Erivo you're talking about. I'm excited to see her in the role. Here we go. Let's take a look at this. Good song choice. Really fits.
There's not much time.
Provokes a wonderful synonymous emotion here.
Where is she? Follow that North Star. If there are no stars, just follow the river. Listen for them.
Beautifully shot, great set pieces.
Is your enemy. Whoa, easy now.
I'm gonna be free or die.
I don't know if you know how extraordinary this is.
Gorgeous to look at.
You made it 100 miles to freedom all by yourself. Would you like to?
And the images themselves, again, playing to that wonderful emotional delivery.
Harriet Tubman.
The untold true story. That's always, a go-getter in terms of attributions. Probably brings a lot of people in.
I made up my mind, I'm going back.
But again, it's that entrance. I think a lot of us, especially when it comes to history, for moments that are unbeknownst to us in detail, we crave those experiences.
Papers. It says here you're 5.5 feet tall. You ain't more than 5 feet.
Must have won my high boots that day.
Strong delivery.
It ain't safe.
I come to get you.
I can see why it's gotten great regard. And again, I believed that going in.
Do you know what would happen if you got caught? You got lucky, Harriet.
I made it this far on my own, so don't you tell me what I can't do.
Powerful emotions.
Harriet, welcome to the Underground Railroad. Everybody, everywhere is looking for you.
God don't mean people to own people.
That's a good line. Definitely stands out in the script. I'm imagining it generally is effective, but that was a strong entry.
I would give every last drop of blood in my veins until this monster called slavery is dead.
Really strong scripting.
Ready?
Bold picture. I just want to look this up really fast. Focus Features, like I said, I've covered a lot of their work, and I've probably seen actually more pictures than I'm thinking. I use the example of Boy Erased, even though it's a very different context in terms of its subject matter, because of the quality of the story. There's another film I'm thinking of, it maybe was theirs, but I don't know for sure. As far as the trailer is concerned, while I'm looking this up, wonderful quality, and I definitely think the trailer speaks to, again, a believable responsibility of what's helmed in the picture. What you would think going in if you're doing a story about Harriet Tubman centered again in the period of the Civil War and you want to make it honorary and respectful, I think Focus Features is a great choice for that. And Cynthia Erivo fits beautifully into the role. The music choice I thought was very serviceable, as well as the emotional delivery, not only through some brilliant scripting, but through the environmental imagery as well, like the sun coming up and that type of hopeful image. I thought that was great. It was like, okay, if you're going to try to evoke a feeling from me as I watch a picture on a visual level, that's how you do it. Okay, so I can concentrate more on the... Okay, the picture I was thinking of, I thought for a minute, because of the subject matter and, again, the professional delivery, like The Best of Enemies, I thought that was Focus Features. It's not. So forgive me. I had to look it up before I, made an incorrect statement. But I was all prepared to be like, well, in terms of Focus Features and dealing with specific subject matter like this, even that was dealing more so with segregation in the KKK. It was still a historical picture. It was inspired by a real-life story from what I remember. I thought it was their picture. I apologize. It's not. I just want to make sure I got that correct. That's Elevation. Oh, no, that's Elevation and STX who did that movie. This is Focus Features. Again, like I've said, I'm familiar with the competence that they exude as a studio from their work, from what I've looked at. Even if I haven't watched the project in full, Harriet, I absolutely will. It's a very strong feature. From a performance perspective, the emotional delivery, the acting across the board, not just of Cynthia Erivo. I thought Janelle Monáe as well, even though she's not as present, again, it's Cynthia Erivo in the trailer, you can understand, because Cynthia Erivo is playing Harriet Tubman, she's more of the character in focus, so it makes sense for the marketing to more so follow her. But I thought, from what I was seeing, everybody was giving a very strong A-level performance. I wouldn't be surprised if it's got award runs in the realm of nominations, if it won anything. I haven't looked into that. It's a pretty accessible release if you're someone like me and it's taking you this long to get on board with the movie. Again, I keep a master list of projects I've wanted to look at, and there's so many films that come out these days. Some get buried down the list. But Harriet, it did help that in fact, it's sitting right behind my PC. I'm not going to, get up and grab it right now, but I just went to the library the other day and I picked up a DVD copy in part to spur me on in terms of covering some pictures I've gotten behind on. And Harriet was one that was available. I'm going to watch it pretty soon. I'm looking forward to it. But if you want to watch it for yourself, it seems pretty accessible right now in terms of engagement. You can go look at it. I'm sure if you want to rent it, there's platforms to do that. Or HBO Max is carrying it right now, if you want to go see it through them. I'm very impressed with it. I think it's a very strong release, and I definitely cannot wait to see more of Cynthia Erivo and other performances, because, again, I think she's very talented. As I said, she was the best thing off the Bad Times at the El Royale. Very different movie, but she gave a very strong performance there. From what I'm seeing here, no wonder from who I've followed and who I've given consideration to in regards to feedback on Harriet, no wonder people are saying it was a very strong release. It's quite compelling. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below if you're somebody who is like me and you haven't taken a look at this movie yet, but maybe it's been on your mind in terms of the title, or if you've watched the film. What do you think about it? And especially in the latter case, do you feel this movie best reflects Harriet Tubman's story? Again, I would imagine it's respectful. But sometimes you see historical projects that take some liberties and a bit of leeway, or because of the story, the telling mechanisms that are presented in the cinematic and visual entertainment art style, there might be some understandable, but okay. It's a bit of a dicey space. How do you feel the portrayal of this reflects the real story? I think that's a better way to ask. Let me know down below if you so wish to disclose your opinion or stance on some of the questions I proposed to you. I think from what I've seen, again, Harriet looks great, and I cannot wait to watch for myself and learn more about Harriet Tubman's story through what I would imagine would be a very professional and responsible portrayal. And I'm sure in the realm of performances will be quite enthralling, given again Cynthia Erivo and the other cast members, but Erivo especially, I'm very impressed by her work, and I can't wait to see her embody the role of such a legendary figure in history. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.